They laughed when she walked into the barracks, boots too clean, frame too small, eyes too calm. Someone whispered, "She won't last a week." Someone else said, "Watch tonight. We'll scare her out." None of them noticed the way her shoulders relaxed instead of tensing, or how her gaze never darted, never begged. They didn't know that fear had already tried and failed to break her years ago. And they had no idea that the woman they were sizing up in the dim yellow light of the hallway had survived things far worse than a few reckless soldiers with something to prove. By the time the sun came up, every one of them would remember her name. And they would never forget the moment she finally said, calmly and without shouting, "I'm a combat master." Her name was Lena Carter, and she arrived at the base with a duffel bag that looked heavier than her entire past. She was one of only 2 women in that intake of recruits, and the other had already requested reassignment by the end of the first day. Lena didn't complain. She didn't try to stand out. She followed orders, ran until her lungs burned, and kept her head down while whispers followed her across the training grounds like shadows that refused to let go. The instructors saw another recruit. The soldiers saw a challenge. To them, she wasn't a teammate yet. She was a question mark. An intrusion. A weakness that didn't belong in a place built on strength and tradition. Lena felt it in the way conversations stopped when she sat down, in the way jokes sharpened when she walked past, in the way eyes lingered just a second too long, measuring her not as a soldier, but as an outsider. What none of them knew was that Lena hadn't come here to prove anything to them. She had already proven everything to herself. Years earlier, she had been a ghost in another world, training in silence, learning how to fall without injury, how to breathe under pressure, how to disappear into darkness and reappear where no one expected. She had trained alongside men who didn't underestimate her, because underestimation didn't survive the first sparring session. She had learned that strength wasn't volume, and confidence didn't need an audience. At night, as the base settled into uneasy quiet, Lena lay on her bunk listening to the distant hum of generators and the soft snores of soldiers who thought they were untouchable. She sensed something coming, the way you sense a storm before the first crack of thunder. When footsteps slowed outside the barracks door, she didn't flinch. When hushed laughter followed, she didn't pretend to sleep. They thought intimidation was a rite of passage. A way to test her. A way to push her out without getting their hands dirty. When the door creaked open and shadows slipped inside, her heart didn't race. It steadied. This was familiar territory. Fear lived here, and she had learned how to walk through it without losing herself. The confrontation was fast, chaotic, and utterly silent. No screaming. No dramatics. Just movement. Controlled. Precise. One by one, confidence drained from the room, replaced by disbelief and pain that wasn't catastrophic, but was unforgettable. By the time the light snapped on, Lena stood alone, breathing evenly, while several soldiers lay stunned, staring up at the ceiling as if it had betrayed them. She didn't smile. She didn't threaten. She simply said, "Next time, knock." Warning brought rumors instead of laughter. Soldiers avoided her eyes at breakfast. Conversations died when she entered the room. The instructors noticed the shift but said nothing. They had seen it before, the moment when a unit recalibrates around a truth it didn't want to face. Later that day, during hand-to-hand training, the lead instructor paired Lena with one of the loudest skeptics from her platoon. He stepped onto the mat grinning, confident the previous night had been exaggerated, a fluke, or a lie. Lena met his eyes, not with anger, but with something quieter and far more dangerous, certainty. The match didn't last long. She didn't overpower him. She outthought him. Every move he made was answered before it fully formed, every strike redirected, every attempt at dominance turned into a lesson. When he finally tapped out, gasping, the room was silent in a way that demanded respect. That was when the instructor asked the question everyone had been holding in. "Where did you learn to fight like that?" Lena paused. For the first time since arriving, she allowed herself to be fully seen. "Before I came here," she said, "I trained with people who taught me that survival isn't about ego. It's about discipline. Awareness. Control." She looked around the room, not challenging, not boasting. Just stating fact. I'm a combat master. And I'm here to serve, same as you. Something shifted then, deeper than fear or embarrassment. Understanding began to take root. One by one, the soldiers started seeing her not as a threat, but as an asset. Not as a woman trying to prove she belonged, but as a warrior who already knew she did. Over the weeks that followed, Lena became someone others sought out, not to test, but to learn. She helped the weakest runners improve their form. She stayed late to train with anyone willing to drop their pride at the door. She never spoke about that first night again, but its lesson lingered in every interaction. By the time deployment orders came through, Lena wasn't an outsider anymore. She was family. And when things went wrong in the field, when plans collapsed and fear threatened to take over, it was her calm voice that cut through the chaos, reminding them who they were and what they were capable of. The inspiring truth they carried home wasn't that she had defeated them. It was that she had shown them a better way to be strong. Not louder. Not crueler. But steadier. Smarter. Unbreakable. And long after the story spread beyond the base, exaggerated and retold, one thing remained unchanged. Underestimate at your own risk. True strength doesn't announce itself. It waits. It endures. And when the moment comes, it speaks just loud enough to change everything.